From supply chain disruptions to bold new innovations, the transportation and logistics world is heating up. Join top industry minds as they tackle M&A and reveal what's steering the future.
All right, we're back with another special edition of The Hot Seat, a little eat in the street with my friend Ken Kramer, Managing Director at BMO Transportation Finance. Kim, welcome to The Hot Seat.
Thank you for having me.
Well, listen, Ken and I just got off a fascinating panel. You talked about the big, beautiful bill. We talked about tariffs. We talked about interest rates quite a bit and equipment financing. So let's dive in right there. For those that don't have an appreciation, and you're kind of the godfather of equipment financing in this space. So just so they can appreciate some of your comments, what's your background and a little bit of your history?
Been in covering the transportation space since the mid-90s. At a couple of banks. Actually grew up on the BMO side of the organization. When we bought GE's Transportation Finance business, they folded my small one into the much larger piece, and we do mostly on my side of the equation. It's actually less equipment and more of the acquisition financing and operating lines that we provide.
I love it. So one of the things that we talked about was, how integral equipment financing is to any type of acquisition discussion right now. So how has really both, the equipment and the acquisition financing as a senior lender, how has that evolved over the last 12, 18 months?
So from an equipment standpoint, it's the market got difficult as the industry struggled, but I think we're seeing the positive movement in that standpoint. From an acquisition standpoint, historically, there was the ability to finance part of the goodwill that you assume when you made an acquisition. And in today's market, it's acquisition financing has to stay inside of the assets. I think is a general rule, and so that's required. Then that difference for the goodwill, find other ways to be financed. And I think you mentioned things like seller notes or equity earnouts and those types of things.
Yeah. And I think that maybe we can expand on that a little bit more. So what is that? How does that actually affect the way deals are getting done? That knowledge in terms of where the senior lender is primarily going to be focused on their contribution to the overall financing is going to be limited to the assets. What does that actually mean?
It means, an advance against the orderly liquidation value of your fleet. It's the advancing against the value as receivables and then the inventory you have. So they're asset-based lending. And so that's the safest and least expensive piece of the whole capital structure. But then you have to fill in the hole with something different.
Right. And, when you know what, that's the puzzle that you're trying to put together. It's a lot easier to play the game when you know that that's what the rules are. So, you also mentioned that you are expected the Fed about 5 different interest rate hikes or increases over the next year. Or excuse me.
God, I hope you're...
Cut the tape. I'm going to freak people out here.
Yes, you will. 5
decreases in interest rates. Tell us what that means. Obviously, that's good news, but what could it mean for the industry as far as, what we see as far as capital commitments towards equipment, but also acquisitions?
So most acquisition financing is done on a floating rate basis. So 5 cuts means there's 125 basis points or so of less cost in your cap structure. The equipment market is on a fixed rate basis, and that's done on based on SOFR swaps. And that market is already down about 100 basis points from a year ago. So you're seeing it already in your equipment pricing. What I won't even guess at is where fixed rates will be a year from now, because there are so many things beyond what than short-term rates, right? How they're impacting it. But I think you'll generally see better financing options going forward. I mean, the quicker we can get out of the downturn, the more options you have from and a better pricing from a risk standpoint.
So what advice would you give to folks that they are going to have needs to either acquire new equipment or refresh old equipment? What advice would you give to them as they kind of look towards these potential interest rate reductions?
Well, right now, most of our clients do fixed rate financing on equipment. I'm actually a proponent of thinking about that in a different way. And should part of your financing be floating rate to balance your exposure to interest rates? So the sort of the 5-year forward swap is today something like 325, and 420, and SOFR right now is like 425. So the market's already priced in on the fixed rate that the average is going to be down around 325. So as you think about this, you're making a bet if you're 100% fixed that the market has the rates right. And I always think that maybe there's a happy medium between. We'd never recommend anybody swap all of their debt to fixed or floating. So my advice would be is think about it out of the box a little bit. Think about how you might do that better.
I think that's a good nugget for you all listening right now. So last question, sir. What advice do you have for folks that are intending to grow via acquisition? How can they be most efficient as they take on debt and they kind of move forward over the next 24, 36 months?
Think about what your company today as standalone business looks like. That's the starting point, right? And then how you're going to manage to maintain liquidity while you go through this transition of an acquisition, which is significant. So I always think the first thing you do is understand what you think your business is going to look like as a standalone, and then layer in what you're looking at. And I think by doing that, then you have a better picture of what you can afford and what that value being added to your company looks like. So to start, do your own homework first.
Hold on to your cash, people. That's what I would say to summarize that as best as you can. Hey, listen, if you don't follow Ken or you don't have a relationship with his group, I highly encourage you to develop that relationship. Ken, thanks so much for sharing that wisdom with us. That's going to do it for us in the hot seat. We will see you next time.